administration. In part, he said that in cities, for example, he had governors. These governors were supposed to protect the Christians or those who were not Muslims. At the same time, well, they were of course protecting the Muslims. From the Muslims to help to protect, the army is needed, isn't it? People that are part of the military, army. Umar ibn Khattab was the one who introduced that people that are in the army should be paid. Before him, in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq and the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is a voluntary, you can say, thing, voluntary, or sometimes became wajib, jihad, be safe, but usually it was voluntary. But Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, he introduced that these people, they should be paid. How should they be paid? From the budget of the government. Where does the budget come from? He was the one who took the zakat. He administered the whole concept of that the government is responsible for taking the zakat, and the government is also responsible for them to spend that money of zakat. In fact, from the non-Muslims, for example, the concept of jizya, which is very much misunderstood by non-Muslims. And if you go to our page, again, there is, I think, a 10 or 15 minutes talk on this I gave in the Trinity College on the concept of jizya. Because people say, oh, it's unfair that the non-Muslims had to pay jizya. But when they realize what it is all about, they will realize that it is not unfair at all. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was the first person to enlarge the Al-Haram, the sacred mosque. And later, in Makkah, he was the one in his life, he made the masjid a little bit bigger. So this is a lot of things Umar ibn Khattab did. Because of the lack of time, I can't mention them. After Umar ibn Khattab, who becomes the Khalifa then? Sayyidina Usman ibn Affan. Sayyidina Usman ibn Affan becomes the third righteous Khalifa. And his time was also a good time. However, there were also some, you can say, because this is the time, the people now, they're not all Sahaba. Some of them are Tabi'een. Some of them never met the Prophet, but they accepted Islam. Their Iman was not so high as the Iman of the Sahaba. So what happens is, the same thing that the Prophet said in his life, now started appearing. One of the dangers, or one of the, you can say, the Prophet ﷺ warned us, the warnings he gave. What was that? Inni la akhafu alaykum an tushriku ba'di, in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim. The Prophet said this in a gathering of 70,000 Muslims. He said, Inni la akhafu alaykum an tushriku ba'di. I am not afraid that after me, when I die, you will do shirk, you will start worshipping idols again. I'm not afraid. وَلَكِنْ أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ أَن تَنَافَشُوا فِيهَا وَأَن تُحِبُّوا الدُّنْيَا. But I am afraid that when I die, when I pass away, slowly you will start loving the dunya more. You will become materialistic people. So during the time of Usman ibn Affan, people became materialistic. Not saying all Muslims, but certain people that were governors became materialistic. Then the time of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem, Imam Ali. Imam Ali, after Usman ibn Affan's 4 years, he was assassinated. Sayyidina Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem became the Khalifa, and Sayyidina Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem's time was also a very difficult time, because he was fighting the rebellions. He was fighting the Khawarij. And in the same, like in Abu Bakr Siddiq's time, people started to try to distort the message of Islam. The same thing happened in the time of Imam Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem. In fact, one of the challenges Imam Ali had and to face, and this is the last thing I'm mentioning, we are praying inshallah at 2:10 sharp today, and from next week Jummah, I will announce in a bit inshallah what time we'll be praying when everybody's here. During the time of Sayyidina Ali, one thing happened, and this is what the Shias always highlight. And I want to be very honest, because a lot of times, some scholars, they try to hide things. They don't try to, because they think if they hide it, it's better. But I am not a believer of hiding things. I believe, knowledge is not ignorance. And ignorance and knowledge is two different things. Ignorance can deviate you from the path of Allah. But knowledge, ultimately, you may be a little bit, confused. You may think, why was this? But if you search and seek, ultimately ilm will lead you to the ma'rifah of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During the time of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem, one of the Sahabi companions of the Prophet, whose name is Amir Muawiya radiallahu anhu. What is his name? Amir Muawiya radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was the one who opposed Imam Ali karramallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem. He opposed and he said, I am a Khalifa myself and I don't accept your Khilafah. He was in Damascus and Sayyidina Ali karramallahu at that time was in Medina. Later on he moved, but at that time not yet. One of the reasons he moved away from Medina was because of such problems. Sayyidina Amir Muawiya radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him. I'm saying again, the Shias, when they talk about him, they curse him. They swear at him. It is not our job, because even Imam Ali, when he in his life opposed Amir Muawiya, he never cursed him. This is not the tariq of Ali karramallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem. This is not the path of Imam Ali to curse Amir Muawiya. Please. Imam Ali, despite the differences, he never cursed them. Yes, there were arguments. There was even battle that took place between these two. Between the army on one hand of Amir Muawiya, who was a baghi, which means he was a rebellion. He rebelled because it was wrong for him. And every imam or every scholar of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaat, whether you take Imam Nasafi, Imam Maturidi, Imam Ashari, everyone agree that Amir Muawiya did khuruj, which means he rebelled. It was wrong. But after mentioning he was wrong, they continue. They don't start saying he's kafir now. That's what the Shias, this is you can say the extreme thing the Shia brothers do. I mean, if he was a kafir, people that were fighting in his army, when they died, it was Imam Ali that led their janazah prayers. Can you lead janazah prayers of kafirs? You can't. If Imam Ali would believe that they are not Muslims because they opposed him, because they are doing wrong, he would never lead the janazah prayers. He was the one who led the janazah prayers of the army, of Amir Muawiya's people that died, shaheed, became shaheed. What happens is, the reason I mentioned this is a true reality in the history of Islam. It has happened, unfortunately. So we say Amir Muawiya was wrong. Absolutely wrong. However, that's it. It's not our job to say who is Muslim, who is not Muslim. He was a Sahabi. And not all companions, they are not angels, they're not ma'soom, they're human beings. Remember, I have said this, that some of the Sahaba in the time of the Prophet, when somebody, for example, fornicates, there's the punishment in Islam, capital punishment. It was implemented on who? On Sahaba. What happens when people drink alcohol? What happens when people... It was implemented, One person, I'll give you this hadith lastly. And inshallah, next week is going to be very interesting, because I will talk about how Amir Muawiya, after the demise, shahada of Imam Ali, became the ruler, not Khalifa. We don't say Khalifa. Anyone who calls him Khalifa doesn't know what the Prophet said. The Prophet said Khilafah is 30 years only. After that, Malukiyya, which means he was Malik. He was a king. He was a king, not Khalifa. So how he became the king, and then what happened, how Yazid became, and the whole thing, inshallah, next week. But last thing, because I want to make sure that when you talk about Sahaba, please remember that they are great personalities. We can't match them at all, no matter how pious we are. One Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ committed zina. He came in front of the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, I have sinned. And the words he used was halaktu. I have been destroyed. I destroyed myself. The Prophet, when he heard him, he came in front of the Prophet ﷺ turned his face. The Prophet got busy in whatever he was doing. The person comes and he comes on the side of the Prophet where the Prophet was facing now, and he again says the same thing, halaktu. The Prophet ﷺ again, he looks on the other side. But the person comes even there and he says, Ya Rasulullah, because he had sinned and he felt embarrassed, ashamed. And because of that shame, he went to the Prophet and he admitted his mistake. And the Prophet ﷺ then, when he came for the third time, he said, because he was married, the person was married, and the punishment is to be stoned to death, capital punishment for that. The person was killed, or he was given the punishment, capital punishment, and he died. When he died, some of the Sahaba, they spitted towards his direction. And they said, look at him, he is so evil. He used to sit in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and despite the fact he committed a sin like that, what happens is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam found out that people are talking like this. He went to the mosque and he stood on the minbar. His face became red and he said, "How dare you talk about that person? Wallahi, if anyone wants to see Jannati, a person of Jannah, then go look at his face. He is the person who is from Jannah." And the Prophet said, because he did ruju, tawbah, and his tawbah, he was very sincere in his tawbah. So this means that even Sahaba of that character, for us, even the Sahaba were not allowed to talk ill about them. How are we? We live 1400 years later. Look at your belief, Iman. You are nothing. We are nothing compared to Sahaba. They sacrifice everything for Islam. So how dare we, living 1400 years later, we don't even pray 5 times a day properly, and we open our mouth against Amir Muawiya. We don't have any authority to do so. For us, every companion of the Prophet ﷺ, we say, yes, they did wrong, but that's it. Then we say it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do whatever He decides to do. But we say he was a Sahabi, that's it. We don't go further than this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to